For 17,000 years, the Vorthak Empire had ruled the galaxy with mathematical precision. Their crystal matrix minds could process billions of calculations per second. Their perfect strategic algorithms had never failed, and their probability engines could predict the outcome of any conflict with 99.7% accuracy. They were evolution's answer to warfare beings of pure logic who had reduced conquest to a science. Commander Thexvar stood aboard the flagship Infinite Calculation, observing the tactical display with the cold satisfaction that came from absolute certainty. Before them hung the small blue world that the primitive species called Earth, surrounded by a pathetic collection of metal ships that the humans laughably referred to as their fleet. "Probability assessment complete," reported Subcommander Zeth, her crystalline form pulsing with data streams. "Human defeat probability, 99.73%. Estimated duration of conflict, 4.7 hours. Projected casualties to our forces, 0. Thexvar's consciousness briefly touched the probability matrices, confirming the calculations. The humans possessed inferior technology, smaller numbers, and primitive tactical thinking. Their defeat was as inevitable as gravity. This would be conquest number 847. Another species added to the Empire's collection of servitor races. "Begin Phase 1, Thexvar commanded. The Vorthak assault commenced with textbook precision. Phase 1, eliminate orbital defenses. Phase 2, neutralize ground-based installations. Phase 3, occupy major population centers." It was the same pattern that had succeeded against 846 previous civilizations. But something strange happened during Phase 1. The human ships didn't retreat according to standard tactical doctrine. Instead, they scattered in seemingly random directions, their formations breaking apart with no apparent strategic purpose. Thexvar's probability engines immediately recalculated chaos tactics, indicated desperation, which only confirmed their inevitable victory. "Human vessel approaching at high velocity," Zeth reported. "Trajectory suggests ramming attack. Probability of success, 0.1%. Thexvar observed with detached interest as the human ship, a crude vessel called the USS Defiance, accelerated directly toward their flagship. The pilot was clearly attempting a suicide run, a primitive tactic born of emotional desperation rather than logical assessment. But as the ship approached, something unprecedented happened. The human pilot didn't maintain course. At the last possible second, he veered away, launched his entire payload of nuclear weapons not at the Vorthak ship, but at an empty patch of space. "Illogical," Zeth observed. "The human has wasted his weapons on nothing." Thexvar's probability engines stuttered. This action fell outside all known tactical parameters. It served no strategic purpose, achieved no military objective, and accomplished nothing except the nuclear detonations triggered a chain reaction in the space debris field that hadn't been on any of their sensors. Fragments of destroyed human ships, scattered across weeks of previous skirmishes, had been invisibly charged with exotic particles. The nuclear blast turned the debris into an improvised minefield that crippled 3 Vorthak cruisers. Recalculating. Zeth's form flickered with confusion. "This strategy does not exist in our databases." More human ships broke formation, each one performing actions that defied logical analysis. One pilot fired his weapons at his own allies, only for those allies to turn out to be holographic decoys hiding Vorthak infiltrator drones. Another ship appeared to malfunction and spin out of control, crashing into a Vorthak vessel. Except the malfunction was precisely calculated to exploit a weakness in Vorthak shield harmonics that shouldn't have been known to humans. Each action, taken individually, appeared to be a mistake, an accident, or an act of desperation. But collectively, they formed a pattern that Thexvar's mathematical mind couldn't pass. Probability matrices failing, Zeth reported, her voice carrying something the Vorthak rarely experienced: uncertainty. Human actions do not follow predictable parameters. On the surface of Earth, ground forces reported similar anomalies. Human soldiers abandoned strategic positions to save wounded civilians, a tactically disadvantageous choice that somehow led to discovering Vorthak tunneling operations. Scientists in research facilities ignored military orders to instead share their discoveries freely with each other, creating technological innovations in real time that outpaced Vorthak countermeasures. Most disturbing of all, humans kept making decisions based on concepts that didn't translate into Vorthak logic matrices: hope, loyalty, sacrifice, love. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice crackled across the communication channels to her scattered fleet. Remember, everyone, we're not trying to win according to their rules. We're trying to win according to ours. Vexvar finally understood the tactical horror they faced. For 17,000 years, the Vorthak had defeated every species by calculating the optimal response to logical military strategies. But humans weren't using logic. They were using something far more dangerous: intuition, creativity, and the willingness to make choices that looked wrong but felt right. A human fighter pilot named Rodriguez flew his damaged ship directly into a Vorthak probability computation array, not because it was strategically sound, but because he had a feeling it would help. His sacrifice disrupted the Vorthak fleet's coordination for crucial minutes. A civilian hacker named Kim ignored all military protocols to broadcast human music and art directly into Vorthak communication channels. The random, emotional content overloaded their logic-based processing systems, causing temporary paralysis in their command structure. Most impossibly, human commanders kept making decisions based on protecting people rather than achieving objectives. They chose to save lives over strategic advantage, chose hope over probability, chose to fight for ideals that couldn't be quantified. By the end of the day, the mathematically perfect Vorthak Empire found themselves in full retreat from a species that fought according to principles that couldn't be calculated, predicted, or understood. Vexvar stared at the tactical display as the infinite calculation limped away from Earth's gravity well. For the first time in 17,000 years, their probability engines registered something they had never encountered: complete strategic uncertainty. How did they defeat us? Zeth asked, her crystalline form dim with confusion. Vexvar processed the question for several minutes before responding. They didn't defeat our strategy. They ignored strategy entirely. They fought with their hearts instead of their minds. As Earth grew smaller in their sensors, Vexvar realized that the Vorthak Empire had just encountered something more powerful than perfect logic: imperfect beings who refused to accept that perfection was necessary to win. In the galaxy's databases, the entry for humanity was updated. Previously classified as primitive tactical species, the new designation read unpredictable. Strategic analysis impossible. Approach with extreme caution. For the first time in their history, the galaxy's apex predators had learned what it meant to be afraid.